Hello and good morning, welcome to a crafty vlog. So today I've got some things I want to get done. So one of the things I want to do is block out the crochet blanket that I finished last week. This is the Weekender blanket by Sandra from the Cherry Heart podcast, and I've just done a small version that is made from some lovely minis that I got from the advent from 2022 from Giddy Yarns, and the theme was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I did pop in another mini set that I got from her yarn clubs last year as well. But that's come out as a nice size for like a baby to put in the actual car seat in the car. So that would be ideal for Jensen. I shouldn't say baby, he's 2 now. It's like a toddler blanket. And I've held the yarns double because they were fingering weight so that they're a little bit thicker. So it'll be nice and warm and cosy. If I'd have done it actually fingering weight, single strand fingering weight, it would have been obviously a bit thinner, but then I could have made the blanket a bit bigger. But I think this is an ideal size to go in the car, so that needs to be blocked. I have some of my Popstars Blanket diamonds that I need to sew together to make a panel, and these are going to be from the January yarn club, so I'm just showing you the undyed one so I don't have a spoiler for you if you haven't received your January set yet. But I will put a warning before I show that bit so that it doesn't spoil it for you. So I'm going to do that, and I have some placemats that I started ages ago, and these are a pattern by Little Patch Pockets, which is Helen Butcher, and the pattern is called Double Up, and it's supposed to be placemats and a table runner, but I've done all placemats because it wouldn't fit on my table. I had started doing some binding, but I don't think I like this colour as the binding, so I'm going to switch it to this fabric, I think, so that it exactly matches, so that it sort of fades away into the background a bit more, so that it's more the 3D attraction rather than this different fabric around the outside. So you can see that I'd sewn it on and put it to the front ready to top stitch, and I was like, I don't know if I'm pleased with that, so I'm going to change those. I think this one I actually finished layering it up and quilting it, but the rest I've just layered them up. I haven't done the quilting, so I'm hoping to get at least a couple of those done today. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to start unpicking. I have to get my unpicker out. So when I'm doing straight edge binding, I only use just pieces cut along the grain rather than the bias. So I'm just cutting some 2 1/4 inch strips for the binding. I'm just using scraps that I've had left over from making up the block initially. I do have a tutorial to do bias binding, and it is the same as that tutorial. I'm just trimming off the salvages, and then I can start joining them together. I really find this little 3 1/2 inch square really handy. This is a Creative Grids ruler. They're my favourite, I think. They've got little grippy pads on without having to buy extra stickers, which is always good. So I've got my pieces. I'm going to put them at a right angle with the right sides together and just stitch along that line so they're sort of attached on the bias. So I'm just putting them over the top of each other, right sides together. I've just eyeballed the diagonal line, but you could always draw a pencil line. So there we go. Carry on joining those together. It doesn't matter if they're the opposite direction to each other, just as long as they're all right side facing. And I need at least 6 of these smaller strips to go around this first block, so better get on with those. I'm just going to go and trim 1/4 inch on all the joins. So I'm just running the iron over these to set the seam, because it always makes a better seam if you just set the seam first. And then once I've set the seam, I can go along and press the seams either open or to one side. I think really it's probably better if I press the seams open. I'll start with this end because this end will have cooled down by now. And then just give them a press. There we are, that's nice and neat, and I'm going to carry on doing that all the way along. So I've pressed all the seams open, and I'm just going to fold this over to make the binding and give it a press as I go along. Like so. I'll just press the whole thing all the way. I did actually square this off before I applied the binding the first time, but I think I'm going to trim a little bit more off to make it nice and square and clean. I don't know why I didn't trim a bit more off the last time. There we are, I think that's a little bit neater. I'm going to start applying this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that the edges overlap a little bit. I'm going to use some of these clips. I've got one of these IKEA tubs that I keep it together with on my rail. So to do this corner, I pinch it and fold it over like so. And what I'll do is when I come to this corner, I'll run off the edge and then come back onto it, but I'll show you that when I get to that point. So now I'm coming back to the beginning. I'll do the same with the last corner as I have with the previous corners. And then I'm actually going to leave this bit a bit open. That's where we're going to join it together. So now over to the sewing machine. Right, so this is the gap. I'm going to leave a bit of a gap here, so I'm not going to start stitching till right over here, so that I leave a big gap, or as big as I can, so that when I join these two pieces together it'll be easier to do. Obviously I'm a bit restricted in that each side is quite short on this, so it'll be a harder project to do. So I stitch till I'm about 1/4 of an inch from this edge as well as this edge. Turn it so that you stitch off the corner, and then lift my foot up, flip over that piece of fabric, and then go back down where you started to stitch off, but obviously you've flipped that piece of fabric over. So I've just stopped stitching just after the corner there, so I've got all this fabric that I can overlap. So I'm going to trim this edge off about there, overlap it, and then cut it so that it's 2 1/4 inches overlapped. So I'm going to get my scissors and cut it about there, and make sure that it's a perpendicular line really. I could do it with a nice ruler and rotary cutter to make sure it's perfect, but I'm just a bit crazy like that. So I'm going to go 2 1/4 inches overlapped, and again you could do this with a rotary cutter to be super accurate, but I've done this so many times now I feel relatively confident I can do it. And I open these pieces up, and you want to do it so that, you know, when you were joining these side pieces together, you want to have the right sides together, and you want to stitch diagonally. Now this is going to be a bit fiddly because it's quite close together, where normally if you were doing binding on something that was big like a quilt, it would be much easier. It might be easier if I pin these two bits together actually, just to make that a little bit easier. I can pin that together just so that it's sort of holding it in a position where these two pieces are going to be easy to join. So as long as you've got the pieces not twisted, make sure that they're not twisted, and right sides together and the diagonal, you'll be absolutely fine. And again, you could mark your diagonal stitch line on the machine if you wanted to, but this is a little bit fiddly because this is such a small gap to close it in on. Right, back to the sewing machine. Right, so I need to trim that off, but before I trim it off, I just like to make sure that that's going to lie flat and it's in the right orientation. But you can see obviously I need to trim this off and press it first. So I'm going to go over to the ironing board again. Once I've trimmed that, give it a press, and then we can come back to the sewing machine to stitch it back down. I am going to use the rotary cutter and ruler for this one. And we've got that nice and trimmed. Right, so I'm going to just set the seam again like we did before. It's a little bit more tricky to press these seams open. There we are. Trim some of these threads off, make it look a little bit tidier. So now I just need to stitch down this side so that it's joined in all the way along. Because we unpicked, I've got extra threads here which drives me nuts. We can tidy that up in a minute though. So back to the sewing machine. So I'm back to the ironing board, and I'm just going to press the binding out. So I'm going to use my clips again. And you can see at the corner, if you fold it nicely, you should end up with a perfect mitered corner. So I'm now going to switch to my stitch in the ditch foot. There is a little metal piece in the middle which just guides you to stitching in the ditch. I'm going to stitch in the ditch on the front, and hopefully that'll attach the work onto the back. And it doesn't matter if it's not absolutely perfect because it is on the back. So there we are, I've stitched it all the way around in the ditch on the front, and then on the back it catches all the back fabric down so it's completely enclosed. It doesn't quite, it's difficult to get it so that the points are actually perfect, but I think that's good enough, especially if it's going to be on a table as well, as long as the right side facing is reasonably neat. So I've got that one finished. I'm going to try and do a couple more of these, see if I can get them done before lunch, and then I'm going to move on to a different project to make sure I get several things done so it makes it more interesting for you guys. But at least I've got one finished. Let's see if I can get a couple more. So this one I've got layered up, and I've just literally got the layers on top of each other, and I'm just going to put a few pins in. I could glue baste it, but I don't like to use glue basting where I don't need to. It's quite expensive, and I just find that pins work just as well sometimes, as long as it's not too big of an area. I tend to just give one pin around the edges, and then I'm just going to quilt it from top to bottom. If I try and put it in the same orientation as I did the first one, what I'll do is I'll do down here first. So what I've been doing with this previous one, what I did is I used the side of my 1/4 inch foot, but after the 1/4 inch there's another little bit on the side of the foot which is another additional 1/8 of an inch. It must be 3/8 of an inch from the edge to where your needle is. So that's how far apart I've done the quilting on this one. I'm going to do the same with this one, just because it's nice and convenient and I don't have to use any sort of extender markers on the actual foot itself. I'm going to change my stitch length to a 3mm, I think, and I've got my quilting walking foot attachment down, and then I'm going to go through the ditch to start with. I've just stitched off the edge. I'm going to turn it round, and the thread is still attached, but I can just start stitching this way. What I forgot to do actually is reduce my pressure foot tension. I think that makes it a bit easier. and it rucks the fabric up less. But I've put my pressure foot tension on 3.5 on this particular machine, but you might have to mess with it on yours. So I'm halfway. I'm now working down this side, but it's amazing how much better it looks quilted. It's just got such a lovely texture now. That's another one done, so I'm going to see if I can quilt another one so I can at least get 3 finished and bound by the end of today. So I better pin it together and get quilting. So we've just had a yarn delivery of opal yarns, so those will be going in the shop tomorrow. I'll give you a bit of an overview of what colourways I've got a little bit later in the vlog. But I thought I'd show you what Jensen's up to with the box. What are you two up to?
We're playing shop.
What's that? What's Jensen doing inside the box?
He's gone into the shop, having a look around, and then he comes out to the till, and then we buy things. This is the till, and this is the table.
Can I buy these cups, Jensen? These pots?
Yeah, there's some paper.
Oh.
Is that money? Is that for me? Yeah. That's money, is it? Thank you. £5. Thank you. Would you like these? Oh, that's where the ball goes, is it? Oh, good.
So I've managed to complete 3 of the table mats. I do have 2 more that I need to do, and I might actually make some more. I'll see what they look like on the table, see how big they are. We do have 6 seats on our dining room table, so I might make about 3 more. So I've got a couple for the centre as well to put bits and bobs on. But I'm pleased how they've come out, and I think now that they've been quilted they look a bit more 3D, which is nice. So while my blanket is soaking, before I block it, I thought I'd show you the new opal yarn collections that I've got. These are brand new. This first one here is Funny Fruits, and they've got some interesting names. So we've got Raspberry Kiss, Sugar Berry, Crispy Kiwi, Laughing Fig, Banana Mash, Smiling Fruit, Grape Feast, and Apple Feast. So they're all really nice bright ones. We've got the Opal Beauty collection. So these ones always have the Edelweiss and vitamin E extract added to it, so it feels extra soft. So we've got some different colourway names. So I think Peaceful Lingering, Boundless Expanse, Timeless Joy, Living Truth, Self-Knowledge, and Pure Thoughts. So we've got some interesting names there. They've got some really nice patterns on these ones actually. So there's a picture of the side how they sort of knit it up, and I'll put in the listings when I list these on the website what they'll look like as well, so a picture of those. And then the last collection over here is the Showbiz range. We've got Curtains Up, Focus, Spotlight, Applause, Melodious Emotions, Standing Ovation, Theatre, and Encore. And there's some pictures on there of what they'll look like. I will put these on the website as well. So these will all be on the website tomorrow, the 1st of March at 7 PM GMT. I've just picked out a few of these that are my favourites out of the collection. Quite a lot of pink, to be honest, this time. But there's some gorgeous ones to choose from. So I've blocked the Weekender blanket, the pattern by Sandra Paul, and the yarn again is from Giddy Yarns from the 2022 advent calendar to do with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So I tried to poke out all the bobbles so that they stack out nice and evenly, and I've blocked it. I didn't pull it out too much, just nice and flattening and the right shape and size that it should be. I don't know whether the material will change as much as knitting does when you do block, but I thought it might be nice just to give it a block, just to give it a bit more even texture, especially with the bobbles. Now I'm going to work on my Popstars blanket. I've got 6 diamonds with one each of the different colours from the January Popstars mini sets. So if you don't want to see it, perhaps tune out and catch us again on the next video. So I'm going to show you the colours for January. So these are the Britney Spears inspired minis, Popstars minis from January. These are obviously all skeined up so that you can see them all twisted and lovely. And then this is what I've got left of the balls that have been knitted. So Adam's mum Liz knitted these for me, so I need to Kitchener the ends and join those together. So hopefully I'll get that done today. But you can see the different colours that were inspired by Britney Spears. And that's the little card insert that comes with the kit. And then I've got these different colours. So this one was inspired by the song Oops, I Did It Again. It's like a muted red because I didn't want a bright red in the set because I want them all to go together as a big blanket. So all the Popstars minis should go together. So this is Oops, I Did It Again. This one is Hold Me Closer, and that's the one that Britney did with Elton John. This one is inspired by Lucky, and it's got little splashes of blue in there. This one here is Toxic, and it's pink and grey. This one here is Sometimes, a blue and beige. And this one here, inspired by Baby One More Time. So that's got a couple of different pinks and grey in as well. So those are all designed to go together for this set. But I've tried to put all colours together for the whole of the Popstars sets throughout the year. So if you're making the Popstars blanket, they'll go together nicely. So this is the star for January, and hopefully I'll get a chance to put the whole thing together now. So I'll show you how I get on. I do have a tutorial on how to do the Kitchener stitch, picking up stitches on the Icord and joining them together as well. So if you need help with those, there's the video tutorials, and you can always drop me a message if you get stuck. So this is one of the blocks I've already put together in some colours I just had in my stash. They are my colours, but they're not one of the Popstars ones, just as a sort of sample. But that's what it's supposed to look like once it's sewn together and blocked. So Liz put the stitches for the Kitchener on a little bulb pin so that I could then take them off and start knitting with them again, or at least just Kitchener off. She doesn't really like doing Kitchener stitch. So I've Kitchenered these two, and I'm going to join them together there. I'll show you a little bit of that. But like I said, the proper tutorials are in the description bar down below, so you can find links to those. You won't be able to get hold of the Popstars January sets because they're now, they've all been sort of released. Right, those two are joined together. Once they've pulled out a little bit, they'll be more of a proper diamond shape once they're all sewn. So I'm now going to join the next one, these two together. So there we are, all the diamonds joined together to form the star. I haven't had a chance to join the undyed ones around the outside, but I'll do that for the next video, so you can see what this block it looks like finished, but I think you get the idea of what the star looks like. So there's 12 of these stars in the finished blanket pattern, and there's full instructions in the pattern of how to do it. That's why I wanted to dye 12 different sets of minis to make each of these stars, for one for each month of this year, and all inspired by a different pop star. So I've also got the February ones that I need to knit up and join as well, to show you what those look like. And obviously March is coming up too. So the Popstars mini sets for March are on sale now, and they'll be on sale until the 10th of March, and they'll be shipped on the 15th of March. But there's also the Music from the Movies Fantasy Edition, and which is inspired by a song from the movie. And I have actually put a post on Instagram with the inspiration pop star for this year for the Popstars mini set, and also the film, which is the song where the song is from for the Music from the Movies Fantasy Edition. So if you did want to know what the sort of the colour range will be, look at those photographs on Instagram. I also wanted to mention there are still some spring fling sets, the project bag and yarn set, which is a surprise, but if you look at the picture I'll pop on the screen now, you know the idea of what the colour range is, and those will be inspired by the favourite songs that you have at a dance, the spring fling. So those ones will be shipped on the 15th of March to be there before sort of Easter time. So I think that's all for today. I've assembled my star, got 3 placemats finished, so I'm pleased about that. We'll do a bit of a pose for the thumbnail. So those are the achievements for today, and I've also blocked the blanket as well, so I'm really pleased about that. I think that's all I'm going to record for today, so I can get this up and edited this evening, so it's still up on Thursday rather than Friday. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in next week's video.